Hi, welcome back to the Political Beat. I am Pat Maloney, Chief Municipal Affairs Correspondent for the London Free Press, and with me is my junior City Hall reporter, Chip Martin. And as always, we are here to talk about the week that was and will be at London City Hall. Not in the greatest mood today, Chip. I've had a couple of really long days working on the Performing Arts Centre story. I didn't shave. I think I wore this shirt for last week's video. I look like I combed my hair in a wind tunnel. Kind of just not feeling so into it, but there is some good news. Do you know what it is?
That I'm picking up the slack and looking particularly splendid today?
Not just that, but last week we ran the election hotline phone number.
Oh yes,
we said
right down
if
there.
there was a serious person in the city that wanted to discuss a serious potential mayoral candidate, to call the election hotline at 519-667-5512, and by God, somebody called. And
one person called.
Well, that's all you need.
That's okay.
One serious person.
Remember one person.
Right. Good. And we had a very interesting conversation, and I would say that the wheels are already starting to turn among what I would consider to be credible potential candidates to go against Mayor Joe Fontana in 2014. It's going to be very interesting, but something to watch. I can't say much more than that, but if anyone else wants to float a trial balloon like that, sources say, blah, 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 election hotline, you got it, 519-667-5512.
Right there.
And
I got an email, unconnected to the that number, from a fellow who's a private investigator who ran last time, Aaron Brome, and said that he's running again, and he has all sorts of information about other members of council.
Is he going to run under his real name or his fake name?
I don't know, but apparently he feels that his credentials are the fact that he ran once before and didn't do a very good campaign. So.
Absolutely no interest in discussing that any further.
Okay.
But what I do want to discuss, story that you are familiar with, and I believe friend of the show Hank Danishevsky is working on.
Yes.
Job,
a breaking
press
news
release. Go ahead and tell the good people what the story is.
Well, the newsroom is still all at Twitter. Apparently, a couple of hours ago, we received a press release from the London Economic Development Corporation talking about Branttel coming to town, and this was a great new initiative. And
that's a private company?
It's a private company out of Brantford, and they're establishing a beachhead in London. And in fact, the mayor was saying that this is just terrific, and it adds to the jobs.
So the LEDC quoted the mayor in the press release?
Yes, the mayor was quoted extensively in the press release that this was a great new venture for London and great news for the city. Unfortunately, the press release didn't indicate the number of jobs that were going to be brought to the city by Branttel. It took none other than Hank Danishevsky to ferret that information out, and we're quite excited.
By the number of jobs created, which is?
1. Well, it's a start. Patrick, voyage of a million miles starts with a single step. This could be an exciting new development.
So a press release was issued quoting the mayor over the creation of a single new job.
No, the press release didn't indicate the number of jobs. We needed solid investigative journalism
we know that to be the case now.
One job, that's right.
I don't know what to say about that, but it harkens back to the suggestion that somebody may or may not have once had a draft press release when London had 9.9% unemployment, and the press release may or may not have been celebrating London's 90.1% employment rate until a very wise person stepped in and said, no, we are not doing that.
Well,
anyway.
The struggle continues, folks.
Yeah. Man, okay.
How about the Performing Arts Centre, Patrick? You're doing some splendid work on that. What's the latest on that?
It's very interesting this evening. So today is Wednesday. You'll be seeing this video most likely after the Wednesday public consultation, during which the two groups that have proposals, that is the Grand Theatre and the Orchestra, they will be presenting their proposals at the Convention Centre in a public meeting, and then the citizens will all have a chance to answer questions. Independent consultants report, which I got an early copy of and which I thought was tremendous and very, very comprehensive, was very critical of both proposals, as it should be. It should be finding what's wrong with them. Which is to the benefit of the taxpayer and the politicians that may or may not ultimately make the decision. What I'm curious about now is how many people show up to this public meeting. I see this as a really huge issue. Council's going to make a decision in a couple of months on one or none of the two proposals. We're talking $50, $60 million at least to build this thing. Could be great for the city if it's done properly. Some people think that these kinds of cultural investments have an indirect effect on job creation, so that's also interesting. But do people care? I think they do. I'm curious to see what the turnout's going to be.
I think the lobbyists, who we've already seen at work on the Twitter and Twitterverse or whatever it's called, and elsewhere, and emails, and
you mean the person who attacked me on Twitter and forgot to mention she works for the orchestra?
Well, that sort of person. But at any rate, there may in fact be the lobbyists who are at work. One would think that they would be out there to get their people more mobilized and out there as a show of support. So I think you're going to have a good crowd.
I would be shocked if there wasn't, and that makes me all the more interested in writing even more about this issue. I think it could almost be a full-time beat for the next couple of months, just writing about this issue and giving as much information to the public as we can, because ultimately that's who will be driving the decision. What do Londoners want?
It's a huge decision, and I heard just yesterday, I think it was, on the radio that the Chamber of Commerce has no comment with respect to either of these proposals because, in fact, there's no business plans behind either of them.
Yeah, and people who are in the know and have worked on previous efforts to start a performing arts center, a big new performing arts center, because this has been going on for decades, they are not involved in this process. A lot of them grew tired of fruitless efforts before, and a lot of them are not fully convinced that either the Grand or the orchestra proposal is all that good. And a bit of what I would call highbrow bad blood between the two groups, and why aren't they working together? And that's a question a lot of people are asking. And the answer is the orchestra doesn't think that the Grand's proposal is legit.
Is grand enough.
They don't think it's big enough to work. And the Novita Consultants report said exactly that.
That was rather devastating, I think, Patrick.
Yeah, and it's true. There are a lot of unanswered questions. So we're at the point now where I think if people are sort of fantasizing that City Hall's about to break ground on a new performing arts center, I don't think we're anywhere near that point yet.
We're a long way.
That Novita report was, I think, a great reality check, and I give bravo to the Corporate Investments Office at City Hall and the bureaucrats who hired that group to do that report, because an absolutely great reality check on the state of those two proposals.
I don't think council can make a leap of faith. They have to have the business case made. They have to know the numbers. They have to get greater buy-in than they have. And I think it's very premature now for anybody to say, yeah, we're going to go with this or we're going to go with that. A lot of questions, and I hope you can provide our readers with some of those answers.
And a lot of people who would say we don't want this, we don't care about this. There's an argument that London's greatest cultural asset is the London Knights. Right, it's not. There's people in this city, a great number of these people in this city, who don't care about this stuff, and I understand that. Right? And I get that.
Yep.
So there's two things: do we do it, yes or no? And if we do it,
which one?
Don't screw it up.
Yep.
You gotta do this right. You gotta do it right, like the Budweiser Gardens.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, that is a home run of epic proportions.
No question.
Anyway. Ombudsman's report into Billy T's, which was the popular Highbury Avenue eatery, where on one Saturday afternoon in February, 7 members of council, including the mayor, passed through a back room at various times. There were witnesses, the media reported on it, us included, and then there was almost a record number of citizen complaints to the Ontario Ombudsman, who investigates so-called secret meetings, which are off-site meetings or meetings away from the public where a voting majority of council or a council committee discusses council or committee business. And that is illegal. That is against the law under Ontario laws. The Ombudsman is investigating, and his report is nearly done. I talked to him yesterday, he wouldn't tip his hand to the tone of the report or what he found, but I will say this, he took a very unusual step, and he had the 7 councillors he interviewed, he didn't trust them, he said, so he put them under oath. But he said to me yesterday, it's all water under the bridge now. From his perspective, it's water under the bridge, and I'm curious.
When's that report out, Patrick?
So the politicians should get it by the weekend. They'll get it in the next few days. They get a look at it. They offer him feedback. He expects to have it out, make it public by month's end.
By month's end, okay.
And again, is there going to be anything formal here, punishment-wise? I suspect not. What I would suspect is that if he finds evidence that there was a secret meeting and they discussed council business, and I believe that is what happened, and we have reported that, he's going to give them a knuckle rapping. Same thing happened last year, and they were absolved of any wrongdoing, but he said it was as close as damn is to swearing. It didn't look good. Be careful. And a knuckle wrapping could hurt coming from the ombudsman because he's not afraid to wrap knuckles.
That's right. But then again, PR and shaming and that sort of thing is basically he can't throw anybody in jail, and so he's got limited tools at his disposal.
Although he actually can criminally charge someone. His office has the power to do that, although in its 40 years of existence, they've never done that.
Okay.
But to your point, yes, generally speaking, in a way it's toothless, but then again, he's very good at knowing where he has power, and his power lies in organizations like the London Free Press or AM 980, using the media to get to wrap those knuckles and say, shouldn't have done that. And I'll just add this, friend of the show, Laura Stricker, who's a young City Hall reporter in Sudbury, she has covered the Ombudsman's, he was fired by Sudbury as their secret meeting investigator, even though he does the job for free, and they hired a private firm, and I'm working on a story about that, and they have now absolved Sudbury City Council of any secret meeting, and the Ombudsman has excoriated them for it, excoriated Sudbury City Council again, and her work covering that story in Sudbury, I think, has been tremendous. It's a real rogue council. It's a really interesting issue. So if you're interested in the whole idea of secret meetings and what's happening in London, there are echoes of it at the Sudbury Star. I encourage you to look up those stories.
Okay. We also have a big meeting I'm going to tomorrow night, Patrick, and that's one with relation to the setting compensation for members of council and the mayor for the next council. Public meeting of this task force has been set up with members of the community, and they're going to see if there should be a raise for members of council who currently, councillors earn $33,000, the mayor earns $104,000.
They're underpaid.
Some people think that. We're looking at that. We're going to be comparing these numbers with other municipalities, and we'll see at the end of the day what the situation is. Now, keep in mind, they have a third of their salary is tax-free, so actually they make a little bit more than that.
They make like 40 G's, baby.
36 grand and 130,000 for the mayor is the equivalent. So when people are thinking about whether they want to run again for office, and if we could use the election hotline number again, please, at the front here.
Float those trial balloons.
If you are thinking of running for office, call this number. Yeah. It's urgent.
We're happy to talk to you off the record.
And you will soon learn what you will be paid as a result of the report of this citizen task force.
Does a pay increase, while keeping councillors at part-time, not full-time, does a pay increase get you more candidates to run for office or better candidates to run for office? That's my question. What do you think?
I honestly don't know. I don't think that the first consideration you should have when running for office is the fact that you want to be paid a substantial amount of money. You should be there for the good of the community, and I know this is a little naive, but I'm older than you. In the old days, people used to run for the good of the community and not to line their own pockets, and one would hate to think that people are doing that for that reason.
But if you're paying somebody 50 G's a year to do that job, which is probably, if you're a good city councilor, you're putting in 50, 60 hours a week on top of your other full-time job and the rest of your life, in the case of some of them who have jobs, $50,000 is not an exorbitant fee. I'm just saying that I see what they do. I think it's outrageous I think it should almost be flipped. MPs should be making $30,000 a year, and councillors should be making considerably more than they do. Because the level of work, the level of accountability, the public scrutiny is outrageous.
Well, in fact, there's no way of determining whether people are earning the money they're being paid right now, and quite frankly, certain members of council who we will not name here, I don't believe are earning their money at all. If you increase substantially the amount of money, you exaggerate that problem.
I'm just saying I can see.
And others are working far more for their money than others, and that's because they feel it's the right thing to do. And those are the people, quite frankly, that I want representing me at City Hall.
Yes, I agree. And I think that those people would not be moved, and people like them would not be any more likely to run if there was a pay increase. You're right. They're not motivated by the money. So maybe maybe that answers my question. Do you get more candidates or do you get better candidates?
Right in the guiding principles of this task force, it says the system of remuneration must be transparent, open, and easily understandable, but that a member should not seek to, no council member should seek to serve in public office solely for financial gain. I'm not saying solely. The key motivation should be to serve and improve the well-being of the citizens of London. And I know a lot of people are very cynical about politics and politicians right now in light of Pamela Wallen and some of our Mike Duffy and others. But in fact, I still think we should strive to do the right thing, and that people should run for office for the right reasons.
They don't get paid a lot, and they do a lot of work, and they take a lot of flack.
Call me Pollyanna, but that's the way I feel.
Okay.
And if, in fact, people are thinking of running again, I don't think 3 times is the usual in the media, reminding people about this number, the election hotline, please give it a call if you're thinking of running, and we need some good candidates, people.
And we're happy to run a story that says sources say candidate X is considering running. He declined comment, she declined comment. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. We're happy to float that trial balloon for you. So again, on behalf of Chip, I'm Pat. This was actually not a bad.
Well, for a guy, yeah. But one of our 2 viewers asked me this question. They said, the young guy with the pen waves it around too much, and then he uses and writes it on there, and yet you've got a computer here. Why don't you do this stuff on the computer? You're the computer savvy fella here, not me.
It's TV magic.
Oh, TV magic.
Yeah. See you next time at ellapress.com.